Hi everyone, this is Brayden, and this is the video where I'm going to discuss the third session of my campaign, Wispvalley, the Crumbling Kingdom. So if you haven't seen the last video, I do have parts 1 and 2, or sessions 1 and 2 up on my channel, if you want to get some background on where everything has led up to this point. But, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, session 3 started where the characters had left off. They were all um, in Wolfsfang Keep, the center of leadership in Wolf's Head. They had been given rooms and had a moment to settle themselves in and get ready, and then I brought all the characters to the banquet hall where they were going to have a dinner with the family and discuss some of the happenings in the city. So the characters all gathered along with all the members of the Silverfang family that were present, as well as one of the NPCs that had joined them for their travels, Diana Bernholt. She was also present. So the characters had a chat with specifically Leon Silverfang, who's the head, the first lord of the city. He's the leader. And they talked about what had been happening. He explained to them that the city had been attacked just yesterday by a large group of lycanthropes. And they'd been able to repel it, but they had suffered some casualties. Other than that, the same day that they had arrived, in the morning before they had got there, his wife, Adelasia, had gone to speak with the druids of the Moonstone Grotto to see if she could gain their aid in the matter, since she was a member of their grove, of their order. And his son, Jameson, had gone out with a small scouting party to try to locate the den of these lycanthropes. And he was supposed to return that evening, but he had not. So he explained that. Um, so the party asked a few questions, mostly just about the happenings, and I've explained about the majority of things that were going on. I think they also asked a little bit about, or no, Ander had requested to speak with Leon privately at some time that night, and that happened, which I'll go into. I'm trying to remember if there's anything additional that happened. I believe, remember Ander and Mateus had a small conversation. I don't remember exactly what was said during it. And there were some private conversations among the characters concerning a matter which I'll explain later in the video because it does come up. But Ander had a conversation with Lord Leon, and he talked mostly about the happenings, and then Ander also wanted to discuss the Children of Enlightenment because there were traces of them within the city. And Leon expressed his disfavor on them, but stated there wasn't anything that he could really do. He couldn't like kick them out of the city because they weren't doing anything technically illegal. But Ander expressed how he was how one of the members of their group had tried to kill him earlier, and Leon offered him some increased protection, but Andrew declined, saying it was all right. Um, but Leon said that he would keep an eye out. But something I decided to take advantage of was that earlier last session or late last session, the characters have to pull a card from the Taroka deck, from the Crowns deck of the Taroka deck, every session or every day that passes in game, to see if one of the enemies catches up to them. And the first card that they had pulled was surprisingly the Raven card. So I didn't have anything planned for the Raven card, but I decided to take advantage of that, because in my mind the Raven card was associated directly with the Raven Queen, and there are ties with the Raven Queen in this particular campaign. So late in the night, one of my characters, Ward, who's the Oracle of Wispvalley, he had a servant of the Raven Queen appear in his room, and the servant changed before his eyes and took on the form of the Raven Queen herself. And the two of them had a conversation about some of the things that were happening in the valley, particularly things that were associated directly with their two characters opposing each other. And I can go into detail about this because Ward talks to Ander almost directly afterward concerning the matter. They have a conversation because the Raven Queen wants something that was stolen from her, and that's there's a crystal in this book called the Tome of the Shadowfell that the Numitors have had for generations, ever since the valley was brought into being. And the Numitors have held on to this book, and there's a large gem that's impressed in the front of the tome. And the Raven Queen wants that back because that's something that was stolen from her by the Numitors long ago in the past. And she wouldn't make any concessions with Ward. She wants it, otherwise she has a direct line to Ander, and she told Ward if he doesn't give in to her demands that she will take Ander away and that he will never become king, which would cause a multitude of problems for the valley itself. With that in mind, though, so they had that conversation. And Ward said that he would talk with his masters and discuss the trade itself. But he specifically wanted the Raven Queen to take away her gifts to Mother Andromeda, because as he had heard earlier from Mateus, Mateus had a conversation with the party to explain everything that he had found about the Children of Enlightenment. That's what that conversation was. Ward asked the Raven Queen to take away all the powers that he'd given Aunt Mother Andromeda. So that because he wanted to kill her for the things that she was spreading. And I didn't specifically tell him that I would, or that she didn't tell Ward specifically that she would, but she told him that she would look into it. I also expressly didn't state whether or not Mother Andromeda was still a cleric of the Raven Queen, which will come up later. She was being a little vague with her answers, purposefully. She's trying to maintain the upper hand in the conversation. But immediately after the Raven Queen left, Ward woke Ander up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to have a conversation with him and told him that the Raven Queen had met with him and that she wanted the gem in his book and that it had been stolen by the Numitors long ago. And it was imperative that they come to some sort of agreement because she had control over Ander and she could express that control and prevent him from becoming king, which would cause the valley just to die, essentially. It would cease to exist at some point if that were to happen. So that's something that they have to worry about. And after that, I let them finish their rests. They woke up in the morning, and their first line of duty was to sorry. The first line of duty was to go look for the missing Jameson Silverfang, and also try to find out where the Spike and Thrope Den was. But they specifically started with looking for the missing Silverfang member. But something interesting that happened that morning was Mateus had a conversation with Diana Bernholt. And he specifically asked her questions about what was her thought about what she thought about the Numitors and the and Ander in general. Whether or not she thought Ander was ready to lead. And I expressed that she was very confident in him. And she didn't think ill towards the Numitors at all. And it was interesting because I realized afterward that the party was under the assumption that one of the cards they drew for the enemies, the Tempter card, was referring to her. They thought that she was the friend who was going to betray them, which has a lot of interesting connections because Diana does have at least some reasons why she could be that person. She had a very strong attraction to Ander when they were children, which was passed over when Ander ended up marrying Jessamine. And especially with everything that's been going on, like Ander's father, Ander II, disappearing and the valley falling into distress, there could be a lot of doubt being brought onto Diana. So it's very interesting that they are looking at her because she is indeed a very good candidate for that. But they were feeling a little threatened because when the morning came, I had them pull another Taroka card, and they actually ended up pulling the Tempter card. So at some point, that is going to come up during that day. So immediately after they pulled that card, Mateus went and questioned Diana, which makes perfect sense to me because they're trying to figure out who that card is associated with, and she is just as good a candidate as anyone else that they could probably think of. So they decided to take their escorts with them. Diana, Jessamine volunteered to go with them as well because they're looking for her brother and because she's also wanting to spend time with Ander. She hasn't had the opportunity to do that. And then they brought their three other comrades, their soldiers that they had hired to protect them. And they went off into the Duskwood forest looking for Jameson Silverfang. So Ward employed some of his oracular magics and got a heading that they should follow. And they started heading that way. And while they're traveling in the forest, I had them roll a random encounter because I created a table for specifically for the Duskwood itself. So I had them roll for a random encounter. And they ended up rolling a encounter where they came upon this swampy area of the forest. And they ran into they ran into four shambling mounds that were resting in the swamp. And there was this large scale fight which lasted, I think, 3 or 4 rounds where they fought these shambling mounds. And it was a nice fight. I got to the characters got to employ a lot more of their powers, especially since they had leveled up at the end of last session to level 6, because I had started the campaign at level 5. They had access to more of their special abilities, and they were able to kind of test those out and get a feel for how combat was going to work. And it was a decent encounter in my opinion. There was a lot happening, and I also got to introduce some of the abilities of a couple of the NPCs that I had created, specifically Jessamine and Diana. They have very interesting. They have customized stat blocks that I created for them. So they have very select abilities and powers that they have access to, and they got to express those during the combat. And honestly, they're rather impressive. They can deal a lot of damage in one round. And it was good that those shambling mounts had appeared because they're just big hunks of beefy hit points. And they weren't able to do a whole lot of damage. I was able to damage some of the players, particularly Mateus. And I think I had injured Ward a little bit as well. But they were able to get rid of the shambling mounds, and then at the end of the combat, they healed everyone up to max, except I think Mateus is down like only 6 hit points at the end of that encounter. But they had to use some of their resources to get through that. So I had to end the session there because we ran out of time for the day and we were wanting to go eat. And it's a very interesting place to end because next session there's a lot that's going to be happening. They're going to figure out what has caught Jameson up and why he wasn't able to return the other day. And there's also the Tempter card that they drew at the very beginning of the day that is going to pop up at some point next session. And they're going to have to deal with that, which I don't think they're entirely ready for. It's not going to be exactly what they are expecting, and I'm really excited for that. But unfortunately, I am filming this on Sunday, which is when we normally play this game, but I don't think we're not going to be having a session today. Hopefully we'll be able to play next weekend, but we'll have to see about that. But I wanted to get this video out. I was going to do it earlier in the week, and I got sick, so I wasn't feeling very well. And I wanted to wait until I was feeling a little bit better to discuss everything and get all that out. So this video is shorter than the last one, unfortunately, but that was because a lot of it was oh, excuse me. A lot of it was dialogue. There was a lot of talking going on in this session. The characters had a lot of interactions with each other and with other NPCs and characters in the game. And they're also planning on what to do next session a little bit. So this is a lot of build up into the next session because the next session is where a lot of stuff is going to start popping up. They're going to run into Jameson and deal with the consequences of that. They might also end up finding the lycanthrope den, which has its own stipulations and things that are happening there. And then I also got to deal with that card that was pulled, and that's gonna be very fun. And I can't wait to talk about that in the next episode when we end up running session 4. So thank you all for watching this episode. If you like what I'm doing, like the channel, feel free to check me out on my Patreon. I released a bunch of homebrew Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition content. A lot, most of it is stuff that I'm actually using in this campaign. And then I will also be releasing some new content on there on Monday as well. So keep a lookout for that. And otherwise, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate you all just taking the time and being here. So thanks, and have a good rest of your day. I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye.